guests.
Yeah. I'm doing my worst attempt at trying to remember how to play Back from Cali.
Hi, everybody. Derek is performing a fine song from the first Slash solo record in 2010 called Back from Cali. Just before we went live, you were asking me about that song.
Yep.
You asked if I played on it. The answer is no.
Okay.
In a good way, only because I didn't know Slash yet.
Right.
But I knew that record was going to be coming out.
Yep.
Because we had heard Velvet Revolver was having a little bit of issues, and Slash, clearly the most prolific, hardworking guy I know. Whatever was going on, he's writing a song every day and worked on a bunch of killer songs, and found his next record was going to be, I'm going to have a bunch of guest singers sing on these songs. And he found a perfect match on however many songs, like a dozen on that record.
Yeah.
So that song has some important for the now to where we're at, because while I've been in a band with Slash since 2010, and Miles Kennedy, and that song was the audition for Miles Kennedy, because when Velvet Revolver wasn't together and Slash was, working on singers and putting that record together, there was Chris Cornell, Ozzy, Fergie, Andrew Stockdale, long list of singers. Huge. And Miles Kennedy was a short list of, and Slash didn't even know who Miles was. Yeah. And I think somebody had, hip him to, who's this guy, Miles Kennedy? Anyway, that's one of the best songs on the record, thanks to, Miles crushing it. Well, there's two songs that Miles did, Starlight. And Back from Cali. Am I just taking over here? Am I allowed?
Oh, no, you're all good. So
we're live.
Yeah, we are live. It is Gear and Beer, and we have a very special Gear and Beer today because we have, Winnipeg native Brent Fitz now lives in Las Vegas, and you were kind enough to come join us. We start all these off with the same thing: feeling good on a Wednesday. Yeah.
And we are kind of in the peg.
Yes,
we're just on the outskirts.
Soon enough. This will be Winnipeg. Like, everything keeps growing this way, so it won't be long before it turns into Winnipeg.
Derek, where we are, I grew up in the city, west side of town, and this would have been foreign to, where? So when I pulled up, I was like, look at all the activity out here, let alone, I'm just going to brag here. So we come out to this, some industrial, what do you call it, office buildings, and this whole complex here is incredible. But I walked into your studio here and I was like, what is going on here? This is Hollywood in Winnipeg, Canada, right here. This is good. So pretty proud to be sitting here. It's awesome. Looks great.
Thank you. Well, we're really excited to have you here. I mean, we've known each other kind of, I'm trying to think. So the first time I met you, I remember being super shocked because it was in Minnedosa. Back in, it would have had to have been 2001, 2000, somewhere between 2000 and 2003 or 4, and you were playing with Vince Neil.
Yeah.
Because I remember
Minnedosa, Manitoba, so that's outside of Winnipeg here. I'm playing there in August this year, coming up.
Oh, really? Yeah.
All things lead back to Minnedosa.
Yeah, to Classic Rock Weekend or Rock in the Fields in Minnedosa.
This small little town that's had some amazing history of concerts over the years out there. And so I played with Vince Neil. Okay.
Yeah, I remember.
2003 or 4, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It was early on, early 2000s, because it was near the tail end of when the Minnedosa Festival died. Mm-hmm. I don't think it died the year that you guys were there. I think it made it one more year, and then.
Well, was that Sunfest? No, it was something else.
No, but I think they were all pretty much connected one way or another because.
Was Vince Neil wearing a cast?
Yes, he had fallen off of.
Okay,
the stage
now I remember the
gig.
It's always little bullet points of oh right, okay, we did those gigs and Vince was in a cast.
Yeah, I remember. The reason I remember it is because. I was working as a stagehand, and you needed help. There was a Vince Neil decal, I'll say decal for the Americans instead of decal, that you needed to put on a bass drum scan.
Yeah.
And I was the guy that got told to help you because I own a company that makes shirts and decals and stuff like that. So, yeah, and that's when we started talking, and you were like, well, I'm from Winnipeg. And I'm like, what? Like, how? Like, you're here with Motley Crue singer. How are you from Winnipeg? And that was the first time, honestly, that I was ever introduced to the idea that somebody from Winnipeg or from Manitoba would go off and be in a big band and work with to me rock stars. That because I had only ever seen where like I'd never met side guys. I'd never met anybody that was a gun for hire. I had only ever seen like there's bands that they make it and that's it. And you were probably the first time that I saw that happened. I was like, shit. I'm like, that's insane. So, yeah.
But before me, there was other guys who I was like, holy shit, they moved to LA or they went to GIT.
Yes.
Okay, so way before I ever was stupidly naive enough to leave Winnipeg and go to LA, I distinctly remember a few names I had heard. Oh, that guy went to GIT in Hollywood. And I was like,
yeah.
Hollywood, what is that? It was like Mars, man. But great player in town, Barry Player.
I was going to say, you're about to say Barry G. Player.
How do you not mention Barry?
Yeah.
Who, that was like, he instantly walked on water because I was like, he's been to Hollywood. It was so incredible. Like back then, I was very eager and naive to, I'd never been to LA, and everything that I loved about music, New York and LA and big cities like that, all those, musician heroes I had, Faces, Circus, Cream magazines, the rock magazines, Hit Parader, they were all, it was Hollywood stuff, like the Sunset Strip. And so and GIT, Guitar Institute of Technology, and PIT, Percussive Institute. So, and I knew a couple other drummers. My friend Kevin Radomski, also from Winnipeg, he went to PIT.
Okay.
And I was literally like, holy crap. And I'll keep dropping names of Winnipeggers. Chris Sopkowicz, who's still in LA and really done well and successful. He also went there, and he was the guy right before I had enough balls to go. And he came back home and visited, after being there for a while, and he was so like bright-eyed and positive about it. And I was like, oh my God, Chris went to LA. Holy crap, this is awesome. So I did end up going there in 96 January to the NAMM show.
Yep.
The NAMM show is my life-changing moment for the Winnipeg guy that leads to where you go, holy shit, some guy that plays with Vince Neil and these guys. Am I allowed to be, can I say shit?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're good.
That's where the story started to happen because I saw all those dudes from Winnipeg going to GIT, and I was jealous.
Oh, man, I remember taking guitar lessons from Barry Player when I was like 18 or 19 and listening to him tell stories about opening up for Guns N' Roses with the Deadbeat Honeymooners and going to GIT and like, I remember him talking about like, I don't remember if he was just taking lessons or if Paul Gilbert was one of the instructors at GIT at the time. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I've told this story on the podcast before, but or on Gear and Beer before, but I remember Ibanez did a clinic here where they brought Paul Gilbert in, and this was back in the like late 90s, and they had it was at Mother's Music over on Wall Street.
Of course.
And they had Paul up on stage, and they brought up 3 guitar players to trade solos with Paul, and I didn't know who Barry was at the time. And I was living in Carmen, and my guitar teacher in Carmen, as they're going up, first they had like some kid.
Very small town outside of Winnipeg.
Very small town.
With some good, rich musical history, because you're from there, and I know a bunch of other great musicians from
Yeah. Stobes is from there, like.
Carmen, Manitoba.
Yeah, exactly.
Hello. Carmen,
Manitoba, Eddie Belfour's hometown. Hockey, you either learn to play an instrument or play hockey, or a little bit of both.
The problem is you can be from Carmen, but if some hockey player that's won the cup, the Stanley Cup, hello hockey, is from there, they really don't care about the rest of us because we're all failed hockey players.
Yes, exactly.
There's not going to be a banner or some sort of like sign.
No.
whatever you do in life, if you
Yeah.
didn't win the cup, they're
Yeah.
not going to erect a sign on the way into Carmen.
Exactly. So anyway, I remember going to this clinic, and so they're trading off solos, and my teacher at the time, first it was like some 13-year-old kid that just ripped, right? But like Paul would play, then the guy from Winnipeg would play, and then Paul would take whatever their idea was and just bury them with it, right? Like with a shit-eating grin on his face, like in good fun, right?
Yeah.
But what was funny is, so Barry was the last guy out of the three. And so anyway, the first two go up, and then Paul's soloing after the second guy goes down. And as Paul's soloing, they hand the guitar off. So they hand the guitar off to Barry, and Barry walks on stage, and you see Paul look up and then do a double take and look, and just has a massive grin on his face.
Cool.
So Paul goes, Barry goes, expands on Paul's idea. Paul goes again. Then Barry goes again, even though he's not supposed to. Barry goes again, and like I don't say he buried Paul, but he one-upped him.
Could hold his own.
Yep, and then Paul walks up to the mic and said, Barry, I forgot that you live in Winnipeg, and you guys have no idea how lucky you are to have Barry Player in your town.
Because that's great.
Because they had been at GIT together. And Barry was my first experience talking to somebody the same thing, where it was like, you played where? Like, you went to GIT in Hollywood? Like, what? Like, and it probably had the reverse effect on me than what it did on you, because I looked at like Barry living in his little apartment teaching me on Carlton, and I was like, so if I go to Hollywood, this is what I'm coming back to? Like, if you can't make it there, I'm not doing it, right? But
well, in effect, if you're going to school there, not necessarily big picturing like I'm going to move there. I mean, I wasn't going to school there. I was just excited for the experience of going to LA, because I really believed that so many of my favorite heroes and stuff, were walking the streets.
Well, and I mean, that is one of the, I would say now, and you can correct me, but I'd say that's one of the two places still in the US that if you're going to make a lot of connections and if you're going to do well in music, you're either in LA or you're in Nashville.
There is no arguing. You have to leave a comfortable position and go and be schooled amongst the big boys.
Yeah.
And if you're lucky enough not to be born in Nashville and LA, everyone else migrates. Or New York. Can't not credit New York. And Canada certainly has a shit ton of great places with musical hotbeds.
Yeah.
And we're in one right here.
Yes.
This is the breeding ground of greatness. I will brag all day long about how amazing, over and over and over, the turnover here continues. You were just talking earlier before we joined about the Landreth brothers, who we can brag right now are certainly making some serious, proud Winnipeggers, because the latest one was the Bonnie Raitt connection. And we can talk, maybe you can expound on that, but there's a couple guys from Winnipeg who've been around forever, and when their names are being talked about at the Grammy Awards and stuff, and I'm just like, I'm not surprised. A couple awesome Winnipeggers.
I mean, I get that question a lot, like growing up here, especially when you leave. I'm sure that whenever anybody asks you about Winnipeg and about being from Canada, because I get that a lot, especially in the South, more so there than when I'm in California. But when I'm in Tennessee, people will often comment about like, well, they know Ariel Posen, they know Joey Landreth, like they know a lot of the big guitar players that have come from Winnipeg, and they're like, there's so many.
But do they not mention, I know it's maybe a little bit further generation, but I mean, Lenny Breau, who was American that ended up here, but his legacy, and his son Chet, who is still here. And look, if there was no Lenny Breau, there would be no magical Randy Bachman and a lot of those killer things that Randy developed in putting us on the map here in the Guess Who and BTO and that.
I feel like a lot of people don't realize that the Guess Who and the BTO are from here when you're in the South, right? I feel like it's a little more recent that people realize where some people are from because of the internet, that they deep dive a little bit more, and you learn right away that like, oh, the Landreths, like, Joey and Dave are from here, and Ariel Posen's from here, and these are the guys that in the social media world are making waves because they are phenomenal players. But I tell everybody the same thing, because you're used to it with living down south, period, right?
Yeah, I've been in Vegas for 20 years. I moved to LA in in '96, and so I've technically been in America longer than I've been here.
In Canada, yep.
But who's a more patriotic Canadian? Someone who leaves.
Yeah.
The more I'm not here, the more I realize, fuck yeah, Winnipeg.
Yeah. Well, and I tell them all, like, you know, they ask, like, how come there's so many great guitar players in Winnipeg? And I'm like, it's two things, I think. Number one, I think great talent breeds great talent. I think that when the people that you are surrounded with are phenomenal at their instruments, and if you were playing with them at clubs here on a regular basis, you're gonna work harder because you want to hold your own with them. And I don't think there's some people that are competitive about it. I don't think it's so much that. I think it's more the fear of being like, oh shit, I don't want anybody to realize that I shouldn't be on the gig because I can't do that. Yeah. And also, if you're not from the north, it's a ridiculously long and cold winter, and you got
100%.
Two options, in my opinion, really. You're either going to become good at an instrument or you're going to become good at hockey. You're going to choose one of the two things. You know, I mean, there's other things people do now, but like when we were growing up, that was it. Like you're either going to learn an instrument and that's what you're going to sit inside and do in the winter, or you're going to be outside and you're going to be playing hockey. And true. Let's be fair. Everyone's going to be outside in the winter playing hockey a little bit, no matter what. But
hold on. Our generation, the kids now, I'm not playing outside.
Look,
it's all about.
I now don't want to go outside in the winter, but
when I moved to LA, it seemed I had no credits behind me that were of interest.
Right.
But when I did finally involve myself with a lot of really great musicians and people of importance that I could get around some other opportunities by being in LA, I've sort of noticed the first comments were to how my ability as a musician, like, oh, you can really play.
Right.
So I was like, well, what does that mean? Because I'm looking to have my ass handed to me and come to LA and just be like hit with all this super talent and all these people that could play circles around me, either on drums, guitar, whatever. What I did find was that people were commenting, oh, you can really play. But to talk about the Winnipeg thing, I realized, well, everyone that I was around in Winnipeg could play.
Yeah.
And I mean that in a broad sort of statement, but like the cutthroatness of what we do here is those long winter months, like people are getting all their shit together, the notes and we have a lot of great musicians here because of the community that I grew up on, playing clubs, and just so many great guitar players. People could sing great and play, and just, it was so I was like, isn't that the way everybody is here?
I thought kind of the same thing, and when you would go and you'd land in a city Nashville's not a great example, but Chicago to me is a good example. Mm-hmm. There's great musicians in Chicago or Toronto. Per capita, I don't think they hold a candle to the number of great musicians that I know from Winnipeg.
I know. And well, there's enough of us quietly crushing it all over the place. But I mean, I could just bring up, it just made me think when you were talking about Nashville, but Murray Pulver is one of my favorite musician guitar players and has done his time over and over in Nashville doing great things and is here producing and playing with a bunch of bands.
And the best human being, salt of the earth human being that you will ever meet.
That's usually the prerequisite for Winnipegger.
Yes.
Like, better be a fucking nice person, because where you're from, I mean, we are from the blue collar Normalville, and most of us are pretty grounded, we can hang.
Yep.
And I always joke, it's kind of hard to transplant the person from the streets of LA to come live in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
But we seem to function pretty good. We get handed all these weather issues and things at us, and then put us in Nashville. I think we're going to be okay. Put us in LA.
Yeah, well, and you live through economies growing up when you're working, no matter whether it's working in music or working just whatever side job that you're doing. Mm-hmm. I mean, there is no boom or bust economy here. There is just a slow and very steady climb through whatever you're doing. So I do think, the long winters and just the fact that you're not getting rich quick doing anything in Winnipeg. You're just gonna slug it out at whatever you're doing for forever. And most people go, oh yeah, okay, that's fine. I'm fine with it. And I mean, and we figure out really quickly once somebody's an asshole that you're like, fuck you, man. Like, don't be an asshole. There's no need for that. And you quickly, well, at least I realized early on, like, yeah, I've probably been an asshole to some people. I probably shouldn't be an asshole because, boy, do I hate it. Like,
yeah,
to get it back, right?
It sticks out pretty broad here right away. We're like, what's that? What's up with that guy? He's not from here, or whatever. But hey, we can just go on and on about the importance of the roots here. We're filming here in Winnipeg right now, and it's an honor to always, I come home and inhale Winnipeg, and I'm like, yep, this is the great city with great musicians and
it's
great things. I mean, look at the gear that you guys have been working on here, right here in this city,
Yeah.
I mean, we can mention back in the day, there was the mystique of is it Garnet, and those amps were kind of the thing. And I was like, and I didn't know as a kid. You're like, hey, those are from Winnipeg. You learned later. I'm like, well, that's cool. That's a Winnipeg, thing. I think those amps are kind of coveted maybe now.
Oh yes. Yep.
Reverb's always looking for some of the rare ones, like the BTO model or something.
Yeah, like the Herzogs and stuff like that. I mean, like Gargilly started a lot of that here. I mean, there's other great amp builders here. I mean, a lot of you guys won't know, like in modern high gain stuff, there's a company, I'm sorry, and I will start answering, or we will start reading some of your guys' comments. So like,
and we're live,
hit us up.
And there's people listening who are probably going, hey, I'm
hit us up with like whatever questions you have for Brent or any other, dumb stories that I can tell you. Like there's Peter's amplification. If you guys don't know Peter's, I don't know the guy's first name, but great, like high gain metal stuff. Another guy that's local here that builds stuff. I've never seen his I've never seen his stuff in stores. Like I don't know where they sell it, but I've seen some guitar players around town that have them and have had a chance to play them, and they're great, cool. Man. Yeah. And it's crazy. There was another builder that built really great stuff that like Joey Landreth used on like early Bros records and a little bit on his first
Brothers
solo record.
Landreth is what you're, So people are curious.
There's a builder called Jason Warawa, and he had Wawa amps, which were also very cool amps, which, I mean, it's kind of weird, like it's a city as small as ours to have at least, 2 or 3 good amp designers and amp builders in it. I mean,
well, it's inevitable. Yeah, we got so many good, talented musicians. And
and great guitar builders. There's, is it Jordan McConnell that builds, like, high-end, like, hollow bodies and acoustics. Like the... like $25,000, like
I believe
go to like bluegrass festivals to order your acoustic guitar, and this dude's building them, I think, in like North Kildonan in his shed behind his house.
I'm sure they're awesome.
Yeah,
it only makes sense.
Yeah, so there's a lot of great,
good quality, well thought out, of course. Yeah.
Yep. So I mean,
these pedals, everything, like all your stuff is just killer.
Thank you.
I got a bunch of pedals in Vegas.
Nice.
I
like them. That's why we have. Well, that's not why we have all of them, because I'm not our designer. But I like what we design, so that's good. Maybe some old Dutch chips. Yeah, dude. Man, I regret I never took Brad Bailey up on his get the proper fresh bag of old Dutch chips.
What was he at? Okay, Brad Bailey's a mutual friend of ours.
Yeah.
Who
his neighbor.
I grew up with Brad. Potato chips in. They're the number one, old Dutch potato chips are the number one request when I come back home to Vegas. All my Winnipeg or Canadian friends are like, you bring me a bag of ketchup and some coffee crisp chocolate bars.
Nice. I do that at NAMM and stuff. I used to take the mini Smarties and chocolate bars and stuff, because the Americans would be like, what the hell is this? I'm like, just eat it.
Oh, I know.
It's Canadian.
Hey, you went to NAMM this year, which I think is impressive, because NAMM is still National Association of Music Merchants, the trade show, which changed my life, that I went to in January of '96. We can go back to that a bit. But this NAMM show is kind of like the conduit of all gear-related and musician-related, and it's very important to me.
Yep.
It started me connected to LA because I went to the trade show with 2 friends from Winnipeg. I'll mention Howard Klopak, who is currently and has been for many, many years the sound guy for the Guess Who.
Yep.
one of my dearest friends, and we go way back to the club days. And Howard and I have literally been best friends since my early club days. But him and Dave Cousins, who owns Sound Art, which is down the street here. Which is a huge sound company, you know, PAs and everything. Dave was my sound engineer back in the day in the late 80s, and both those guys were coming down to look at gear. They're gear guys. They're techs, you know, like they're. And I'm musician guy, and I was like, I don't know about the NAMM show. Like, I go down there reluctantly with those guys. You should come. You should, you know, check it out. So I'm, you know, on a plane in between these two guys, and they're like, I can't wait to check out the new JBL speakers and everything. I'm like, I can't wait to be in a room full of all these rock stars or what. I didn't know what I was going to get into, but holy shit, the NAMM show. I'm glad it's getting back to normal because COVID fucked it up. As it fucked up everything. And that trade show is such a big, like, and I've been to your guys' booth many times, and your booth is killer. And the fact that you went this year, because a lot of companies they haven't reintroduced going back to NAMM. And so you were there full on, which was very impressive.
Yeah, the NAMM show is my version of the music industry summer camp.
Absolutely.
Like, you see all of these people. Wait, Dan, our president and designer, what are you talking about chips and arguing about? Old Dutch is overhyped. Oh, Sammy, get out of here, bud. Sam's our, I'm sure you've met Sam before. You know Bruce Jacobs?
Of course, I love Bruce Jacobs.
Sam's his son, and he's our
Bruce rocked my bass. Last time I came in for a Toque gig, the transportation between hot weather to cold weather in Winnipeg, your guitar goes, I don't like it. And I brought it home and it was jacked. And I go, Bruce saved my bass. And I had a Toque gig the next, it was awesome.
He's our guitar tech. And like Sam is his son and is our production manager here. And also like smoking hot guitar player. Awesome. Like he is our in-house like virtuoso. So,
wait, where's Hoogie?
Hoogie's in there messaging too.
How about you, bud? Hoogie on the road says, Sam, I'm not angry, just disappointed. Okay. Is there insider conversations?
Yeah, well, because Hoogie's our AR, so Sam knows Hoogie and is on meetings with him.
You're welcome. Hoogie says, my first NAMM was 2006. Hoogie, who took you to NAMM the first time? Your buddy Fitz. And actually, Hoogie has used NAMM to completely escalate all the things he's done.
Oh, yes.
I'm just glad I got somebody else involved in it that helped change their career.
It's funny because like a lot of people like to shit on the NAMM show now. And it's true. NAMM as an organization, I hope somebody from NAMM's watching. You have your head up your ass about how the show should be in today's world, and you need to figure that out if you want Fender, Gibson, PRS, anybody big to come back. You need to figure that out. So for anyone from NAMM watching, which they won't be, but if we hadn't gone to NAMM in 2015, so Dan and I met late 2013. I owned a screen printing company. He was looking for somebody to screen print faceplates for the prototype generator 120 amp. And he somehow met the production manager or like the general manager from my printing company. And I remember coming into work, and he comes into my office and hands me this printout of an email and says, this isn't going to be worth our time to do, but you probably want to look at this because I know you play guitar, and it's some guy building a guitar amp locally. I'm like, yeah, I do. So I called him and started talking to him about what he was doing, and in all transparency, which most people have probably heard this story, I said like, yeah, like, you know, I can do the work. I'd love to check out the amp. I thought for sure it wasn't going to be great because I had some guys that wanted me to print pedals for them and stuff. And every time I tried them, they're like, do you want to buy one? I'm like, I'm good. Like, you know, so I had that kind of happen. And at the time I was playing Mesa Boogie dual rectifiers for high gain stuff in a hard rock, punk rock band. And I was playing Fenders for like DeVille's for cleans. And, you know, Dan first shows up with just the plates, and I was like, where's the amp, man? And he's like, oh, I just thought I'd bring this down to make sure you can do it. I'm like, I can do that. I want to try the amp, though. So brings the amp down. We go into my house, and I set it on top of my dual rectifier, and I play it for like 2 minutes, and I like A-B it back and forth between my rectifier, and I set my guitar down, and I said, all right, where did you build it, and how'd you do it? He's like, what do you mean? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I said, you fixed everything that I think is wrong with the rectifier. It sounds different than the rectifier.
Awesome.
But you fixed everything that I think is wrong. He's like, well, I built it in my basement. It took me about 2 years to do. And I'm like, wow, man. I'm like, you can build me one. And he's like, he starts laughing. He's like, man, I didn't tell you how much it would cost. And I was like, it's cool. I didn't tell you how much the printing would cost. So we'll be okay. So, and that's how we started. And
that's cool.
And I mean, he told me how much it was, and I was like, yeah, the printing's not gonna be that much, so I'll owe you some money. And then while he was building, that was in November, December 2013, and that's when I started talking to him in between, because I was like, man, I'm like, what's your plan to like market this or mass produce it or sell it? And he didn't have a background in that. His background is he's a millwright by trade, but he's just a genius when it comes to electrical engineering. Awesome. So he had built like CNC machines to be used in like oil field drilling, which Dan, if you're still watching, you can correct any of this that I have wrong. But he had built Ronnie Ladderbrick, which I don't know if you've ever seen Ronnie Ladderbrick play guitar, but Ronnie's another like local, just unbelievable guitar shredder. I mean, like he just did a like Pantera tribute thing, and I'm sure he's as good as Dimebag, which I'm gonna get some hate. 20s. Ronnie, how old are you? I know you're watching. So, but like,
yeah, I got to check him out.
Crazy good guitar player.
Awesome.
But yeah, Dan had built one amp for Ryan, and then built mine, and then that's when him and I partnered up, and yeah, and it's kind of like, it's interesting how things like that kind of come out of, you know, just happenstance, right? Like that. There's no rhyme or reason
Absolutely.
to how we met. But I will say, we would not be here. None of you would know anything about Rev amps if it wasn't for us going to the NAMM show in 2015.
There you go. Yeah,
we sold one amp in 2015 to one artist. I was so naive. I thought for sure we'll go to the show. What are we gonna do? We're gonna have like 100 amps ordered, and like we're never gonna be able to build these. We left with one that we had sold to Tyler Morris.
Okay.
You know.
I know Tyler, yeah, really well.
At an artist discount when Tyler was like
great guitar player.
15 years old or 14 years old and was like a wonder kid.
Lives in Boston.
And, yep.
Great blues player.
Yeah, and like that was kind of my first introduction to things. But we met all of the YouTube influencers that we're close with now and that we've been working with for years. We met almost, I'd say probably 30 to 40% of them we met at that first NAMM show, and no one would pay attention to them. They couldn't get Fender to pay attention. They couldn't get anyone. So they ended up hanging out with us. And then moving forward, some of those guys, like I remember we met Glenn Fricker. And Glenn, I don't know if you're familiar with Glenn, but Glenn's from Windsor, another Canadian. He's got a YouTube channel, probably 500,000 subscribers.
Awesome.
When we met him, he had 25,000 subscribers. So no one would pay any attention. So he wanted to go to the NAMM show. He got in the first year with us, but the next year he wanted to go. And he's like, can I get a badge through you? I'm like, sure.
Right on.
And he's like, where are you staying? I'm like, we rented an Airbnb that was like literally across the street from the convention center. And it had 7 rooms and enough beds to sleep 21. What? So we would get all of our YouTube buddies be like, you want to stay at the house with us? Like, they're like, how much? And we're like $20 a guy a night or $10, like whatever it was. So I'm like, let's, and it wasn't great having 21 dudes in a house, but it was also great.
Yeah, but you're just crashing there, and then
yeah.
You're hitting the NAMM, the whole convention all day.
And
I went to the booth, though, whatever year it was, when I first saw you again at NAMM, and it was freaking packed.
Yep.
You guys were in the main guitar area, and it was just like, what is going on at Rev? And I didn't even think, because again, you mentioned I met you with
way back
the Vince Neil thing, but no connection to Rev then. And I remember Hoogie, hello Hoogie.
Yep.
I think he invited me. He goes, "Yeah, you got to go check out the Rev amp thing." And I didn't know at first. Hey, some guys from back home. But I was like, "Holy shit, that amp, that booth is jumping." And then I realized that's a bunch of people from Winnipeg. Of course, it's happening.
Yeah, Hoogie's saying the reason he started with us was because of Glenn, and that's and actually Hoogie stayed with us in that house like one of the years, and like him and I met him at first.
Can we brag on Hoogie too? We got to explain. We can't just say who's Hoogie.
Yes.
But Hoogie is the best guitar tech on planet Earth and a good friend of ours. But I toured with Hoogie 2005 with Theory of a Dead Man.
Yep.
and we were, on tour together, and that was my first introduction. We became fast friends.
Yep.
And since then, we're super tight. And he's gone on. Of course, he's with Shinedown now, and has been with those guys for many, many years, and is everything with those guys. And he's just been like, I'm kind of like a proud brother.
Yeah.
I'm a couple years older. I'm not going to say a proud dad, but just an older brother.
Yeah.
And so Hoogie and products and everything. I mean, nothing better than having gear on the road with somebody to put it through the paces, because that's what we do, right? You build something awesome, and then you got to get it in the hands of other musicians. That's Hoogie.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I met him at first at Dauphin Country Fest. Mm-hmm. They always have a rock and roll stage. You guys have played there a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And he was there with the Tea Party with Jeff Martin.
Oh, yeah, cool.
And I had amps on stage, and he was like, "What's this?" So I started talking to him. He's like, "I got this company called WB Gear."
Yeah.
And he's like, we should talk. And I'm like, sure. And then right after that, I'm pretty sure is when he was on with Glenn on Glenn's YouTube channel. And then we started talking. And then, he was at SIT Strings at NAMM and was like, he's like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, I got this house. And he's like, I'll stay there with you guys then instead of paying $300 for the Best Western or whatever you get at NAMM.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like back to the original point, like literally everything that we have done somehow started at the NAMM show in 2015. And I so desperately, like we've continued to sign up to be there year over year, knowing we knew last year was going to be really bad. Like we knew, not a lot of companies were coming. Yeah. We could see the footprint of it, and we were like, well, like we could either take our foot off the gas and like not like Summer NAMM used to do this where you'd show up, and I always hated it because you'd show up and Orange, not that I'm trying to pick on them, I have nothing against Orange amps, I like the rock reverb, but Orange would have a booth there, and like their booth at Winter NAMM is killer, right? Like it's massive, right? Like
I've never even been to Summer NAMM in Nashville.
So I love it, but I like Nashville's like my second home. Like if I could choose, if I ever move to the U.S., it'll be to Nashville.
Copy that.
It's because I'm fat and I like to eat. I mean, we had brisket tonight. Lee knows exactly why I want to go to Nashville.
Hattie B's or Prince's? Which one?
Oh, Hattie B's. Like hands down. Like, yeah.
Hot chicken.
Yeah.
Talking hot chicken.
So so they have this huge booth at Winter NAMM. Yeah. You go to Summer NAMM, they literally have like this shitty like 2 foot by like 6 foot banner hung crooked on a pipe and drape, and a couple amps set in front of it. And I'm like, man, why? Like, why? Like, why? Like, just don't go, right? If you're gonna do that. And
this is NAMM right here. Mm-hmm. I feel like this is good. This is awesome.
So I've always thought, like, if you're gonna do the show, you can't not do it properly. And I had been like you. I'd been a tourist to NAMM before, right? Like I went in, I want to say like 2010 or 2011. That's actually when I met Mark Tremonti for the first time. Mm-hmm. And
from Alter Bridge, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and I met Mark because I was a huge fan. And I grew up in the 90s playing guitar. Creed was massive.
Oh, yeah.
And then when Alter Bridge started, I immediately liked Miles's voice a lot more than Scott Stapp's. And I also was like, holy shit, when did Mark Tremonti learn to play the guitar? Because you'd hear him play with Creed, and it's all like pretty basic, very well written, made that band millions of dollars because they're well written songs.
Oh, yeah.
But no shredding. And all of a sudden, the first Alter Bridge record, I was like, holy shit, this guy rips. So
he's great.
I met Mark at that NAMM show, and he was super nice. And then through a series of weird events, I ended up with my printing company printing stuff for a company that he co-owned and met, who is now, I'm sure you know Tim Tournier, who is now their manager.
Oh, yeah.
And Tim and I became really good friends, which, again, like a lot of this stuff, if I had never gone to the NAMM show, I would have 100%. Never known any of the people to get in touch with. You know what I mean?
How do you make it in the music business? Go to
Go to
NAMM.
NAMM show.
End of story. No, it's not quite at all that
No,
way. But there's
but-
a lot of importance to what we're saying is go to a place that has so much energy for the music business and
Yeah.
for gear and musicians. That is the spot. And
Yeah.
the one in LA we're talking about, it's in Anaheim. It's been in January for 25, 30 years or more.
Yeah.
But now it's coming back, and it probably will be in January next year.
It is in January next year for sure.
But that's
So-
what we're talking about is the importance of that.
So
that
the
trade.
last 2 years have been, last year was we did really well at it. We signed new distributors. We made money, right? For which normally the NAMM show is completely a money losing experience for Rev by a long shot.
Like
but
most trade shows, you're paying to be amongst all the other.
you're paying for that exposure, right?
Yeah,
Like you're trying to make sure that you get in front of enough people that you build
course.
brand recognition and you get some kind of brand equity out of it.
Of course.
But yeah, I'm a huge fan of NAMM, and I really, really hope it gets. Yeah, we haven't talked about this at all. And somebody said drinking a bubbly. Okay, yeah. So tonight it is gear and beer, but I have AHA. I'm still not technically allowed to drink so I had like minor surgery last week, so I have 2 weeks where I'm
the
not
hell?
allowed to.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing major.
Beer
but
and
like,
gear rhymes great. Bubbly and gear,
yeah, it's
doesn't
not,
rhyme. So we're
not quite as good.
we're
but
good. Beer and gear.
What are you guys drinking tonight? I was supposed to ask all of you that, and I have a list of things that I'm supposed to do. Like I'm supposed to tell you guys all to like and subscribe and smash the like button so we get more people in here. And I'm horrible
Of course.
at all of that, as per usual, because
This is fun. So we can
Yeah.
actually look. I mean, this is high tech. So Derek and I are together looking, into. Well, there's cameras here, yeah, but
Yep.
we actually can see a bunch of the feed here as well, and everyone's
Yep.
chiming in. So, Alf, you're drinking a bubbly. Alf, what are you doing? You're in Argentina. There's a whole bunch of people from all over the place. This is cool.
James, I'll let you guys see my scar in
Let's
like
see
another
the
week.
scar.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeez, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some beer drinking.
Swiss LA takeout. Yeah, Hoogie's drinking Keith's, which is not surprising. Like,
Order some. Okay, Hoogie, don't get me started. Hoogie actually gave me a disclaimer before I came on. He goes, "Hey, you guys are going to talk about gear, right? Just keep." And I go, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, just keep it."
you told me the
I'm
same
like,
thing.
I'm not going to say anything ridiculous, but you travel with people enough, and you're good buddies. You can, when you got a little forum here to go online of the world, you can say whatever you want. So anyway, Hoogie and Swiss Chalet. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, he told me, he's like, Fitzy has a lot of stories, a lot of very embarrassing stories about me. And I'm like, are you wanting me to get him to tell the embarrassing stories about you? Or are you just warning me so that I don't bring it up? But yeah, so you guys want to know those, you'll have to hit up Hoogie directly to
No,
tell you
those
all
stories
this.
only come out. You come to NAMM,
Yes.
come visit us at NAMM next year, and come for dinner with us after a long day at NAMM.
Yeah.
And we'll all go for dinner, and that's when all the stories. Remember when we did that dumb thing? That's when the stories come out.
Yeah.
And we're not sharing them today.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about being from the prairies. We talked a little bit about how, the NAMM show was kind of the springboard for you, just to kind of see that life and that energy. But how did you kind of transition from like being a player here in Winnipeg to moving on to playing with, like kind of bigger acts? Because I mean, for those of you guys who are watching that don't know Fitz, I mean, Fitzy's you're currently Slash's drummer for Slash's solo project, Slash featuring Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators. You're one of the Conspirators, correct?
Very long name.
Yes.
And yes, Conspirator and Miles Kennedy from the band Alter Bridge.
Yep.
We used to be Slash and Miles Kennedy
Yep.
because it started sort of, as we talked earlier in the live stream, about Slash putting this solo record out and then
Yep.
deciding I'm going to figure out how to tour this
Yep.
record. And then Miles, after singing those two songs on his solo record, Back from Cali, which you played.
Yep.
What a fine-looking Slash
Yes.
model. What's the name of that one? I think they're always named.
Appetite Burst.
Appetite Burst.
It's great. The
Okay.
neck's too thick for me to have it as my everyday player.
The only
But,
difference
like,
between your model and like Slash's personals
Yep.
is you don't have the grinded.
Yeah, it's not just.
It's not worn in the cool spots. And
Yep.
I love that all of Slash's instruments have no mercy. It's
Right.
like I play them and they look new for a little bit until they get stage worn, and
Yep.
then they have just mojo.
Yep.
They have mojo from a lot of sweat and scratches on the bodies.
Oh yeah, he's not kind to them.
No.
No.
But anyway, so the first record, Miles getting involved because Slash was like, well, who's going to sing if I go out on tour before he even put a band together? And that, Miles just sang so good on those songs. That song Back from Cali and I mean, Starlight is just incredible. Such a great piece of music.
He's got an incredible range. So like being able to cover like the Fergie songs that they did, like as a
we
male
did
vocalist,
that on
right?
the first tour. Like we played a lot of that record, and of course we're going to go out and play the body of work from Slash. So that includes Guns N' Roses songs and Velvet Revolver, and so Miles was the perfect voice, but there was no band yet. So I knew, when I got the call, I guess we can you brought up about being from the prairies and getting to play with like someone like Slash. People probably go, well, how does that happen? What's the formula? What's the story? I mean, it's one of these roads. It's instead of like Brent goes to LA, end of story. It's all the things I did here for 20 years in the awesome fertile ground of Winnipeg and the hotbed of the music scene here and all the clubs and all the gig opportunities. Playing 6 nights a week with other great musicians. Like I said earlier, how awesome I got good because I was around great musicians. And I was young. I started when I was the young starting of like, I took piano lessons first when I was a kid. At 5. Thank my parents for that. It's the best thing ever. Get your, like your love for music and get some lessons. And, just I love playing music early on. And my family's musical. And then getting a drum kit at 10. And then getting to play amongst all your friends in the neighborhood. And then eventually it leads to playing a more serious level with your friends. And then it turns into like one day you put a band together that gets to play a gig. Be it a high school dance or a club. And all those things kind of happened. And I'll just fast forward to this whole Slash thing was like all these cool things I did in Winnipeg all related to what eventually was opportunity to be amongst these elite, big name artists that why is some guy from Winnipeg connected to someone like Slash, who we could certainly qualify as one of the greatest, most recognizable,
I mean, he's
contemporary artist of the musical instrument, the guitar, the electric guitar.
Yeah, I mean, he is the Les Paul to me, right?
Well,
he is the reason that the Les Paul is as popular as it is, in my opinion. I'm sure I'll get crucified for that statement.
No, but and again, it's sometimes generational of who was, and some people will go, well, Jimmy Page, and Slash will say the Jimmy Pages and the Joe Perrys and people before him. So everybody knows at a certain point it's going to be the guitar. I mean, it starts with Les Paul, his name's on it there, and then it goes from there. So, and my connection to these people, so Slash and Miles put this band together, or Slash has an idea, I'm going to put a band together, and for me to get involves, well, who do you know and who knows you? And that's the whole part of the business that you can't really bottle up and go to GIT, go to school in Hollywood and just say, well, if I go here, then I'm issued this gig. Where's my gig? Where do I get to go from here?
There's so many times that like whenever I get asked about business advice, like for people who are starting out, and I think it's good life advice, not just business advice, but whenever I've been asked, like, what's the one piece of advice that you'll give to somebody who's trying to start a business, I give the same advice all the time, and that is never underestimate the relationships that you build today and the dividends that they might pay you in the future. And the idea is, like, not just don't be a prick, but the idea is, like, if there's ever a way that you can help out with whatever you're talented at, that you can help somebody else, do it. I mean, that's not saying get taken advantage of and work for free and anything like that, but I'm saying, well,
you have to work for free sometimes.
Yeah, I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't started as a stagehand and worked my way up as a rigger at a country festival. And all of the relationships I have in Nashville which have like down to Sean Tubbs working with us. Every one of those relationships I have is because I started to go as a stagehand building this stage in Dauphin, Manitoba for Dauphin Country Fest. And because I had been there so long and been willing to do kind of anything that they needed help with, all of a sudden when I find myself in this position that I'm involved with this amp thing, all of a sudden, you know, Al, Barn Dog Al from Saskatoon is like, oh, well, did you want to bring your amps here and put some of them in the back line for the weekend? And if guys want to try them, they can try them.
Yeah.
And I mean, that doesn't just happen to anybody. That comes from the fact that Al's like, you know, I like Derek. I've worked with him for 15 years and he's got this thing now. So you know what? Why don't you bring your stuff and we'll see if anybody's into it or not, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, you
there's no
seize
way
the
you know
opportunity. Every opportunity leads to another one.
Yeah, and
always.
And when you're building those relationships, like what you never really realize is that those people that you meet, they're going somewhere else in life. They're not staying in, like, you know, when we talked this past summer when you were in Dauphin, we were talking about, you were telling me a story about the merch guy that was with Theory.
Yeah.
That you noticed, and you were talking about the idea that, like, you know, this guy had, you know, come on to start working with Slash, and about the fact that, like, through this industry, and this happens in
I help
every
somebody
industry.
out.
Exactly. Well,
because people have helped me
up.
out. Yes.
And people level up, right?
Yep.
And people, they get the next bigger gig or the next promotion at work, or they move from one company to another gig. And if you've been the guy that, you know, or the girl that's been helping them out whenever they need something, just like you ending up in that band, you end up being on this short list when people get into positions of significant influence, and you never know what position those people are gonna end up in.
Well,
right?
you don't. I always say, you don't know what people are saying when you're not around, and you hope that if there's an opportunity being presented that you don't know about, that person, somebody is going, hey, what about Derek and his guitar company, and what about or his amps, or he's the stagehand to call. Like, you know, you want to be on somebody's mind. Yeah. And after being here and getting all these experiences, great, from the Winnipeg music scene and across Canada. I came to LA, and like I said really earlier, people were like, oh, you can actually play. And I thought, well, okay, but I thought everybody could play. Yeah. Because that's where I come from. And then to start to work and build the resume and build and get a good bunch of people surrounding you. And that's what you have here, is get a bunch of people. Yes. You know, you get lots of you got to like pool from all your other peers around you. And that's just what I just absorbed and listened. I was a sponge in LA of so, you know, and then, so how does Slash call you one day? Well, he's looking for a drummer for that band. Yep. And he's trying to put a band together. But I don't know that. Yep. You know, in fact, the day that I got a call from Slash, I was in LA. Yep. So I've been a Las Vegas resident for over 20 years. But at that time, 2010, I was already in Vegas. I'd been there about 7 years. And I was in LA playing with Bruce Kulick. Oh, yeah. From Kiss. Yep. And we were doing a album release party for his new record that had come out. And I go way back with Bruce. Bruce was one of the first people I met at NAMM. Yep. I met, you know, in the hallways of thousands of people at this trade show. And I was like, oh my God, Bruce Kulick from Kiss. One of my favorite bands of all time. So, you know, I'm just like, holy shit, there's, you know, Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick. And is that Prince? You know, it was just like holy shit. NAMM was so overwhelming. But Bruce and I met early on, my first get off the plane, go to NAMM. And so we were doing a album release night at the Cat Club in Hollywood. Yep. And it was a great, awesome night. And I was staying over for an extra day to go visit my drum company, DW Drums, because I'm a multi-instrumentalist. I play guitars and bass and drums. So on that drive out, I got a phone call from a friend. It's always about a friend who you know. Who do you know in the business? And one of my good buddies who works with Slash, tour manager, Pete Merluzzi. I'll mention Pete because it's a big part of the story. And he had called me, hey, how was that gig last night? Because he loves and knows the Kiss guys. And he was like, hey, how was your gig with Bruce? And that conversation led to you know, me just saying, hey, it was great. I'm going out to DW right now. today to stop in and say hi to the guys. And he goes, hey, I was just on the phone with Slash, and he's putting this band together. And that random, just phone call turns into he kind of like opened the door, right?
Yep.
It's just a quick phone call, like, oh, I didn't, well, yeah, tell him, put my name in the hat.
Yep.
Right? And then the rest is history. But it's
Yep.
like just a random little
yeah.
experience, always.
Yep. 100%.
But 20 years in the making. 20 years of Winnipeg and touring around the planet doing other things.
Yeah, and putting yourself in a position that those things can happen. Like that's what I mean by like building those relationships.
And Slash isn't just going to call somebody without knowing, hey, well, what's he done?
Yeah.
That's a classic. Is like, well, who's using these amps?
Yeah.
Who's like, you got to have that. We love name recognition in the business. We
Yeah.
need to have a little bit of like, well, what have you done? Who's working with you? And people feel comfortable having that. And we know that's important. So I had to have a bunch of resume names that started from the day I moved to LA. And
Yep.
slowly but surely you work with a bunch of people. I worked with some great guitar players. I mean,
Yep.
I got to say, I'm very proud and happy. All the great Canadian, guitar players. And when I moved to LA, I started to work with some of the best. But Slash is going to, want to know, well, who's he played with? And probably, oh, he's been out with Alice Cooper, and he worked with, Vince Neil, and, whatever he needs. Oh, he played with Alice Cooper? Okay, well, that's instantly going to be familiarity to get you at least a conversation going where, well, maybe check that guy out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, TJ wants to know how's Bruce's pancakes?
You know what? They're delicious. You'll have to ask Bruce. Who's asking? I played with Gene Simmons a couple weekends ago in Vegas.
Oh, TJ Silger?
Oh, is that TJ? Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, TJ,
Like,
thanks,
yeah.
buddy. Yeah. I'm going to send Bruce over and send you some pancakes. They're awesome, actually. And TJ's probably in LA rehearsing with the Kiss guys right now. How's Eric Singer? Is he busting your balls?
JW James says, but you also need to realize that there are those people that will let you go that extra mile for them, but never really appreciate it or realize how much you're doing for them. Yeah, of course. Like, you know what? We all have those stories where we did something for somebody and it amounted to almost nothing, or we felt like we got taken advantage of. When you look back on that, 10 years later, it doesn't matter. It's still just experience for you. Like, to me, that's, I've had...
A thousand shitty experiences equal one good one.
Yeah.
So, and trial and error. When you're making gear, you better like run it through the paces and just have a bunch of, well, that didn't work. Blow that up. Oh, well, that didn't work. And then get to the good stuff.
Like, for me, like that's like I mostly do sales and marketing, right? So the amount of things that I've gone to do that were supposed to be great experiences, events that we've gone to, or things that we've been involved with that just ended up being like completely nothing, and you're like, oh, I put energy and money and time into this and it did nothing. But I mean, it all ends up being a learning experience, and you end up learning like, okay, well, what works for us and what doesn't work for us.
Of course.
And that's why I said, like, be willing to do anything with, keeping in mind, you don't want to get taken advantage of. You got to be smart about it. But there is a place, I mean, people who talk about like, playing for free, right? Like, and the idea that
you don't get paid your first gig.
No.
You got to go earn it.
Yep.
So, although I did get paid, well, not my first gig. What's a gig? Like somewhere playing in front of people other than in your bedroom? I mean, I used to have, look, my best friend Brad and I, growing up, lived across the street. We would put our Kiss records on and grab the tennis rackets and have our parents come over, and I would sit there behind the half-ass drum kit I had, and Brad would play guitar, and he'd spit ketchup into a cup, and we'd charge our parents 15 cents or whatever.
Yeah.
Is that my first gig? Kinda.
Yeah.
Because someone came downstairs and watched the show.
Yeah.
But the first legit thing, like a real place with my real drums and everything, I was 15. I wasn't even 16. I played the St. Vital Inn here in Winnipeg.
Yep.
My first band was New Alliance.
Okay.
And they were some guys quite a bit older, probably in their early 20s. That's old for when you're a 15-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And I believe my dad had met some of the guys somewhere, and the dot that connected me my dad and my parents are super proud. And
Yep.
without my parents being supportive, I'd have nothing.
Yep.
Because they were really supportive about, giving me a chance to, this love for music and getting me lessons and exposing me to lots of things. But I think my dad was kind of like, hey, these guys were looking for a drummer, and I threw your name in the hat. I'm like, maybe you met them at a gas station. I don't know. But my first gig was playing in, a club here in Winnipeg, and I remember the first song I played with the band, we rehearsed, it was mid-'80s, so Bryan Adams and Honeymoon Suite, and we were playing the Cars and cool stuff like that. But the first song I played, night one, it was like a Thursday to Saturday gig, and I'm underage. I can't remember if my parents drove me to the gig or not, but it was like the first clicks. It was the song "Fits You Good" by Bryan Adams. That was song one, first song of the set. 1, 2, 3, and I remember going, I'm a professional musician. I am gonna get paid tonight playing in this club. Yeah, that was ground zero.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And was it a groundbreaking experience? Well, I mean, it wasn't it's a handful of people in the bar like, all right, great. You're just like, who cares? Those are the most important trial and error things.
Those are the things that, like, I think we all remember the first gigs that we played when we were playing in an actual band, even if there were only a handful of people there.
Better that there's nobody there.
Yeah.
Get all your shitty notes out.
Yeah.
Play crappy. Hopefully, kind of important to not just expect, look, if you're going to get in front of people and you're going to get paid, probably rehearse the band and be good enough to warrant people going, we want to have that band back. They were awesome.
Yeah.
And then someone in the audience goes, that band was great. We're going to go see them again. In clubs, that's sort of, it's word of mouth. And people are just there maybe anyway. What band is here this week? I don't know. I come here all the time. But man, it's just, but that's the important times to get good at your craft. Work out your kinks. Get used to looking at, it's not, I'll be honest, talking in front of people like this isn't too bad, but it's hard. It's not that easy just to get in front of cameras and just be, comfortable speaking about things. And it takes a lot of years of doing that. And do you like it, Derek? Do you find it easy? Well, I know you've been doing some of these, but it's something that you after a while, you kind of go, all right, I'm getting better at it.
You definitely get better at it. This, I don't mind. Public speaking.
The worst.
Like when we go to Sweetwater, we do
hard.
This sales presentation thing where they've got, you do it 3 times, which is the worst because there's 200 and some people per meeting that you're doing.
Staring at you.
You're up on a stage, they're staring at you while you're trying to give essentially a mini TED Talk of why your gear is cool. And you're like, and then you're like, I have no idea if you guys like anything that I'm saying or anything that, normally we have really good guitar players with us that'll play. So there's at least that I can lean back on Sean. But yeah, that idea of getting up, in front of a bunch of people with a microphone is very intimidating.
Oh yeah.
I never found, when I played live, I never found it intimidating. But I always had, when I have another guitar player, when Alex and I played in a band together, we would just, the same as we are now, we would just poke fun at each other the whole show. So we were going to have fun between the two of us, no matter what the crowd thought.
That's important too.
And it made it so much easier. So I never really had, the intimidation thing. But I was playing small stuff, right? The biggest crowd we probably ever played for was 1,500 or 2,000 people.
That's still a lot of people.
Which is a lot of people.
It is.
But also it was easier for me. I never played in a cover band.
Hey, we're performing for 3 people here.
Yes.
Right now. Hey, Lee Wren, what are you doing?
He's like, I'm
Lee
trying
Wren.
my best to text somebody else.
Realtor, rock star.
So, okay, let's talk about the fact you just mentioned that, bass, guitar, drums, keyboard. So you're multi-instrumentalist.
Swiss Army musician. Not really great at anything, just figured it out.
Jack of all, master of none?
No, well, it's I loved music from day one. So the piano, and it just turns into there were other instruments in our house. Always, piano.
Yep.
Percussive, that's a percussion instrument. And then I was lucky enough, my parents said, hey, well, you certainly look like I was always making mods to this toy drum kit I had. And they were like, we should go maybe take you for some let's take you to a teacher in town and see if you have any drum talent. Like my parents were supportive, but they didn't know like, well, does he have any drum ability?
Right.
I remember, going for I just went to a drum teacher, Gareth Smith, and his son Vaughn here in town, and my parents like kind of, what do you think? Does he have any drum stuff? And I guess they were like, we'll play something, and whatever I played was like, they were like, I don't know, sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Bought me a drum kit right there. I had a used drum kit, and then I'm starting drum lessons, and so I was like already kind of multi-instrumentalist kid.
Right.
And my parents kept me. They go, you can play. Let's get you on the drum lessons, but you should stick with the piano. And I'm so glad they did.
Yeah. That's probably.
I have a career because of piano. Like it's more than just drums and everything.
Yes.
But that knowledge of music that comes from the base of piano knowledge.
Yeah.
Best.
So I didn't have that when I was a kid. We didn't have a piano in our family. I started with
Howard Klopak from the Guess Who's calling me.
Nice.
Howard, you're missing the live stream. Howard, can you get over here quick? We're talking about you. You're on live stream right now. Howard Klopak. Well, hold on. I was just bragging about you. If it wasn't for you and me going to NAM, I wouldn't be sitting here having this great conversation with Derek. So if you can get by here right now, that'd be really nice.
Yeah.
Lee's gonna. I'm by Sound Art, so we're at the Rev headquarters here, and just off the
In Grand Point.
in Grand Point. So I got to go. I'm just in. Okay, well, if you can get over here, I'm just in the middle of a live stream. If you could please.
Yeah. Come on by
I really
and hang
am.
out.
We're live.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you the address. Lee, send the address. Howard, get over here. Okay. Call you in a bit. Bye. You can't make it. Okay, I'll talk to you after. Thanks, Howard, for being on the live stream. Bye.
Nice.
See, Howard's always checking in.
So we didn't have a piano in our house. So I actually started with drums, but I was pretty useless at it.
It's the four limbs.
Yeah.
It's not that easy sometimes.
I can't make, like, whatever the right side of my body is doing, like, my hand has to match my foot. So I can't, yeah, exactly. So, and my brother started with guitar, I think.
Older or younger?
Older. I'm the youngest.
Okay. Look at you.
I know. So he started with guitar, and then we kind of
Great.
switched.
Now Howard's calling Lee.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We kind of switched, and he became a drummer, and he's a fantastic drummer. And probably because we played, he's 4 years older than me, but because we played together constantly growing up,
Yeah.
still hands down my favorite drummer whenever I play
That's
with
awesome.
anybody, because I know exactly what he is going to do
Yeah.
every time, right?
He's your Alex Van Halen to your Eddie.
Yep. Yeah, just about down here though. Yeah, just a lot shorter on the talent side. But
Still a brother thing.
It
Can't
is.
beat it.
And
I have a sister. We grew up playing music together. My sister is the more talented, better looking one. She's in Vegas, crushing it. Plays
Nice.
a bunch of Vegas shows and is always on the road. So
That's
shout
awesome.
out Brent Fitz.
So yeah, I never started with piano, but my kids are.
You have 4 kids.
I have 4 kids. Yes.
You are a busy man.
Yes, it is very.
So are you
busy.
going to have the Partridge Family like a whole? Or
They
what's,
all. I keep asking if any of them want to play guitar, and I mean, I have a 2-year-old son, so he is obsessed with guitars,
Good.
which is good. But I have three daughters, and none of them are interested in the guitar, but they all are. They're all in piano lessons, and it's really crazy to see because my oldest just turned 12, and something kind of clicked, which it's funny because I used to tell us when I used to teach guitar lessons, I would tell parents all the time, like, the youngest that I would teach is 10. If you're younger than 10 for guitar, I would like
attention span.
You just don't have it, and
Yeah,
like
okay.
I'm like, you know what, you're gonna waste a lot of time, and I don't have a lot of patience for that. So,
Well, teaching is an art too, like to just have that
I was
dedication
terrible
to
at it. So
Hey, my sister's been teaching for like 30 plus years.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing that she can do that. Hey, teachers are another special
oh yes,
musician as well.
100% agree. I will fully admit for anyone that's a student or a student of mine or was a student of mine, I was a shit teacher. I mean, I would teach you whatever licks you wanted to learn, but I mean, I was a 16-year-old to 24-year-old dude trying to make $20 an hour. And that's why I was teaching. It wasn't because I was passionate about teaching. And that's why, like, I get people now that actually my wife's boss was here today, and he's like, I still really want to do like a guitar lesson with you. And I'm like, oh shit, like, sure, what? Like, what do you want me to show you? I don't have any idea what to teach you, and you're not going to learn anything, But there are teachers and I've had lots of Barry Player is a perfect example of that.
Great.
Like they know exactly how to take you from where you are to give you something that is going to help you move forward and progress.
Oh, yeah. Lessons for me, come on. Like I learned how to read music. I mean, most of my guys that I play with, these big name people, like, most people are just learn by default of, listening to records or however. And some of the greatest musicians, nobody has lessons. You just figure it out. You just love the instrument. And you just get through it.
And I wish that I had taken piano. Like I wish that I can read music very, very slowly, right? But I'm terrible with it because as soon as I hear, my ear is good enough that as soon as I hear you play it, like if there's a teacher and I'm supposed to read something, as soon as I hear you play
That's fine.
I'm not gonna read it ever again.
So you got good ears. You got to develop your ears too.
Yes.
Like, it's funny how people who don't hear something, hey, do this.
Yep.
Play Back from Cali. Play this.
Yep. Well,
I've heard it in my in-ears 1,000 times by Slash, and it's amazing how the notes that other people could miss. You hear something.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
There is one thing in there. I
Yeah.
don't know what it is, but I can tell you like that was like 99% perfect. And a lot of people, it's hard to pick out something off a record. And the trick is to get good at that and hear other things and then mimic it, because that's where you're going to learn. It's from other people. You don't just like pick up the guitar. I'm great. No, you don't.
Nope.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to get some other influences in you, and you become 20 other guitar players into your playing, or piano players or whatever.
That's what when I did teach, that's what I was bad about being able to communicate to somebody, is I can't tell you why I do something the way that I do. It's that I've listened to it so many times that I'm like, no, that's not right. You know what I mean? And my hands adjust to get to as close as it is. And until I hear it that way, but for me to explain to you like what I did, I have to stop and think about like, okay, well, I muted differently. I didn't do it on purpose. And
well, some of the greats are always like, what'd you do? I don't know.
Yeah, 100%.
I just played. And then teachers are sometimes the ones that can dissect, okay, well, this is what you did.
Yeah.
And I like the vocabulary that I've acquired by learning music, reading music, and understanding other instruments, because a lot of times when you're in a circle with other musicians, drummer, guitar player, bass player, singer, and then you're coming up with the part, and then you kind of go, I'm not sure what were you playing there, or I don't like that. It's hard to put an opinion into something unless you can explain, well, maybe try the A chord. And people are like, what's the A chord? If everyone's a little bit more language friendly in music, it's the communication that gets you to the end result a lot easier. Yeah. And I love working with guys who are quick learn. Doesn't mean they can read music, but they sort of go, oh yeah, okay, cool. Well,
yeah, well, and that's the long way around saying that like my wife and I were both like, the kids can learn whatever they want for instruments, but you're going to learn piano first, and you're going to go to, you have to keep going on it to the point where you could play out somewhere, like you can do your recitals and you can do whatever and do it well. And it's interesting that like my 12-year-old, all of a sudden, like I would say within the last year, it's like a switch flipped, right? Where all of a sudden you're like, oh, like I can hear when you're practicing, you're playing songs from Frozen and from whatever kids' movies, right? But I'm like, but it sounds like those recordings. And they start to figure out. It's the same with guitar players, at least. When I started to get decent at guitar, was the second that I all of a sudden realized, what I'm playing sounds exactly like Live's Throwing Copper, because that was the record that I was learning when I first started learning guitar. Right?
Produced by?
I have no idea.
Jerry Harrison.
Sorry, I'm horrible with that, but yeah.
Oh, I'm full of useless music trivia, by the way.
Nice.
Lee gets annoyed. Like, we'll listen to like Ozzy's Boneyard or Hair Nation. I'm just like, blah, blah, blah. Bob Ezrin produced that record. And he's like, why are you telling me that? I don't care.
Nice. My wife's here saying that my 9-year-old is begging for drums. That's true, she is, but that's because she's got more energy.
I'll be over for the drum lessons.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish that I had started with piano.
Okay, so we're on the live stream here on the side. We're probably missing out. There's probably some insider commentary. Where'd TJ go? Is he out?
Yeah, he's in Europe, I think, with Kiss right now.
I think they're still rehearsing.
Are they?
Yeah, maybe in LA. TJ,
oh, you might be right.
TJ works for Paul Stanley from Kiss, and he's a fine prairie boy from Saskatchewan.
Regina.
Another proud Winnipegger, I'm sorry, proud prairie guy.
Yep.
He's not from Winnipeg, but he's still okay. Who's doing great things.
James says you learned using tabs. Yeah, I was the same. Like, I would
No bad songs start with a cowbell. Yeah, I think you're right. There are no bad songs that start with a cowbell. That remains to be debated. I'm going to think about that. You're right. There isn't. They're all good. They're all great.
There's an ongoing.
Who's Poo Ninja?
The Poo Ninja is he's a bit of a mystery of who he is.
Okay.
But he comments on every music-related YouTube video in the world. Like, I think he must be at least a dozen people because the amount of time he spends commenting on stuff is crazy.
I like it.
So talking about Canadian, growing up playing here. So who are some of the Canadian music icons that you looked up to that were the reason that you wanted to pursue a career in music? Like, we all have our heroes, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any that you would say were Canadian ones that you would be?
Well, my Canadian heroes were, to me, the only heroes in some way, because we're growing up here in the world of Canada, and even though I loved all different bands, I didn't differentiate Loverboy and AC/DC to some degree of like I just loved them, or Rush, or the stuff I heard on the radio, or the albums I listened to and grew up on. But my Canadian heroes, well, it's easy to say Rush, but absolutely, because the musicianship and the international. Look, as a drummer, if you don't figure out coming home and wanting to figure out what the hell is Neil Peart doing, it's just awesome. What a hero to have, as for us. So, yeah, I played side one moving pictures every day, and in junior high, I was like, that was the thing. You do your school stuff, your teenager stuff, and then you go home. Just side one, headphones in the basement, right there, boom, and so without question. But I love, as much as I loved Neil Peart, I was kind of like I loved all the guys in the band, and I appreciated and put myself in, like, I get what Geddy Lee is. I'm a keyboard guy. I love, he's pressing Taurus pedals, he's playing bass, and he's playing keyboards. So, like, talk about Superman.
Yeah,
and singing, fucking amazing.
Everyone is going to laugh their ass off because I say the only band in Canada that I can't stand is Rush.
Well, fair enough. But
that's only one reason. Only one reason.
Okay.
I can't stand Geddy's voice.
That's fine. I know lots of people that don't.
Yeah, it's not that I think that the band is terrible. Obviously, they're unbelievable, and Alex Lifeson is a fantastic guitar player. Yep. But these two guys are both laughing their asses off because it was a running gag for the longest time on the live stream that, like, if you asked me about Canadian bands and anyone said Rush, I'm like,
well, it's an easy answer because I just said, look, the musicianship and the influence on the entire music industry, you can't argue.
No.
So, and just I'm saying, growing up and having those records and those, it's sort of like just a free lesson. Like the music was there to learn from. Like get killer drum fills, to just listen to Rush records, and like those are killer things to add to your own arsenal that I don't use all the time, but like I can play. I love that I have all that DNA of Neil Peart in me because I just love the guy but anyway, like, who's Matt Fournette, man, Loverboy.
Yep.
The 4 on the Floor stuff I learned from all those, and Bryan Adams.
Yep.
My buddy Pat Stewart is one of my dearest friends. It was like early on Bryan Adams stuff, and we stay in touch now all the time. And I mean, I'm just a product of Canadian music. Like Gary Peterson from Winnipeg is the fucking greatest drummer ever. Why? Because he played on all the good songs.
Yeah.
He played on all those Guess Who hits, and he's a protege from young little kid here in Winnipeg that started really young. And all the stuff he played was great because those were great songs. And you listen to These Eyes and just the subtleties and the cool stuff. I mean, I have to say that's one of my favorite drummers. And all those guys from the Guess Who Winnipeg.
Yep.
Like there's your template for great songs and great, musicianship. Great voice, Burton Cummings and Randy Bachman with just clever guitar stuff, simple but yet like crunching, like American Woman. Come on, it's just so like everybody knows that.
Yeah,
it's just deadly, and so. I mean, that's a fair answer. There's some good Canadian stuff. We got off Rush.
I mean, that brings me to like something that's a little bit off. If you guys don't know Brent's band Toque, I mean, the Canadians will probably all know Toque that are here, but there's lots of Americans that aren't. Steve Rezer, give me a...
Toque is a favorite at NAMM. I can tell you, I'm so proud that after all these years, I've heard the quote, the greatest gig I ever saw in the last, I've been going to NAMM for 20 years, and when you guys play, it's like fucking unbelievable. So we do, it's a little bit slighted towards the Canadian dealers. We do play at the Canadian
party,
but everybody's been crashing that party lately. We haven't done it since COVID.
Yeah, I mean, it's killer. I remember when you guys came out with the first record. I mean, I was a huge Kim Mitchell fan growing up. So when you guys did Go for Soda, I was like,
great.
Holy shit. And Todd, like if you guys don't know Todd Kearns, Todd is, one of the best singers to come out of Canada ever. Like he has got such a phenomenal voice. Like I saw it when they did the Age of Electric reunion shows here. Like I remember going with Paul Yee, and Paul was just like, holy shit. He's like, he can still sing his ass off. I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, he's unbelievable.
Well, I first saw Todd Kearns in clubs on the same circuit in the late 80s. Electric, which became Age of Electric, was playing the same bars, and Todd and I are, close in age, and I would have been 18, 19. And when I just took one look at that band, I was like, holy shit, these guys are great. And Todd just was such a standout because his voice was just special and so good in a rock environment. He could sing anything, and he could sing powerful and high, and he just had good tone and looked cool. I mean, there's just all the boxes that check, and you go, and he's a prairie, just a good person from our neck of the woods and all those guys. And it was just cool to be, again, I go to LA and it's like, well, isn't everybody like Todd Kearns? Because that's where you and I come from. It's like, well, there's a lot of great people like that. So it's just great that here we are in 2023 and Todd and I have just been just cleaning up, playing together, because I want to play with guys that love and are from the same storied background as me, and yet we love the same things, and we're in the same band. So Toque is that celebration of all the shit we grew up on. In a band with, it's my high school band, because I didn't ride into the sunset. You didn't start a band with your brother and end up being for the rest of your life in a band. But if I would have started a band with my high school friends and then, had it just be the one thing, this is what Toque is. It's kind of like, and Corey Churko on guitar, also from Saskatchewan. And Shane Gallus, our drummer, because I'm the bass player. I kind of started as the drummer.
I was going to say, I remember that you started as the drummer.
The first NAMM gig we did, I did play drums. Because Zach Throne came in guesting on guitar. Is that right?
Phil X, maybe?
Well, Phil X came and jammed with us. Let's remember this. I got to tell you a Phil X story, because it's important, because we've been working together a lot lately too. But I met Phil in like about 1990. But no, the NAMM jams were with Toque. I think the first time I played drums and Zach was on, I can't remember. Zach played bass, maybe, I can't remember. And Corey, I did play drums. And then the next year, I thought Toque would be great to give me that challenge of, everybody knows me as a drummer. But I've always played these other instruments, and I was like, well, if I put my favorite band together with, Todd and Corey and Shane in that, then, but I'm challenged by playing bass in the band.
Yep.
Because it's not what I've normally been doing, but I'm comfortable with it. And a lot of other people are like, oh, I didn't know you played bass.
Yeah, actually, that brings me to, we were talking about this, about your craziest kind of gig story. Speaking of playing bass.
Oh, well, it's easy answer because it involves, like the craziest story is the craziest scenario I got put into because of being a multi-instrumentalist and playing bass with Slash.
Yep.
I think that's the answer you want.
Yep.
And I won't make it a long story, but being his drummer and Slash not knowing, this is early on. This is like, I started to play with Slash in 2010, spring of 2010. By the mid to late part of that summer, we had really started to get a full touring schedule going. None of that was expected at first.
Yep.
Todd Kearns and I joined him and not knowing, are we gonna just play a gig a week? What is it? And it was just great that it turned into a lot fast. Our first real gigs, I'm getting off topic, but I just have to set it up. Our first couple of things was like we played on Jay Leno.
Right.
We shot a killer music video for the first single, which was By the Sword, the Andrew Stocksdale song. And we played a gig at the Roxy in Hollywood, basically a sold out Hollywood show. I mean, this was crazy, like boom, right into it.
Yep.
And I think it was even more talk shows right away, and then play a video thing in Australia for MTV, and boom. So, and then we get this tour booked. Like, we're right on tour with Slash. And really, we were like, just from phone call to Slash, hey guys, you wanna, work on some things? And then full summer tour. But Slash doesn't really, I'm his drummer, and Todd is his bass player. Todd came in as the bass player, but is really a lead singer from Age of Electric and a guitar player. Great front guy guitar player, but he's playing bass. And I brought Todd in on the gig, knowing he would be the perfect guy in the band, and he absolutely was. But Slash wasn't quite at first aware of all the secret other layers of talent in his new Prairie heavy band, his Prairie Boys. But so what happened was, we were in Russia in the middle of a tour in the summer, and I had to, in a nutshell, a scenario happened where Todd had a detached retina that quickly elevated on tour that had to be dealt with. It was really unfortunate, but it was one of those things where you're in Moscow and this is going down, and things on tour can go AWOL real fast. Todd, it was best decided that morning Todd should go home and have this surgery. But in the middle of a tour, like, fuck, health first, but what do you do? And so I play bass, and everyone's like, well, how the fuck do you do that? Well, it was just the drum tech was awesome. My buddy John Douglas, JD, happened to be on the drum tech position, who's in Aerosmith right now, a great drummer, and done a whole bunch of teching for some of my favorite drummers, Alex Van Halen, Tico Torres from Bon Jovi, Frank Beard from ZZ Top, and also in Aerosmith, and has now become the drummer. Well, he was the perfect guy to be on tour with, because when Todd had the issue, we had to figure out, well, are we canceling, or what are we doing? And Slash, again, he doesn't know, his drummer plays bass. He has no idea. And that morning when it was all hitting the fan, we were like, oh shit. And our tour manager, Pete Merluzzi, the guy I mentioned that recommended me for the Slash gig, was on tour with us. And he said, well, Fitz, you could play bass, and he knows, what I was capable of doing. And so I had to call Slash that morning. And Slash is like, oh man, it sucks about Todd going home. And, I guess we said something like, we're gonna have to cancel. I figure it out. And I go, oh no, you should just go, if you have some interviews to do that, and I'll see you at sound check, and I got this figured out. John Douglas is gonna play drums. What do you mean JD's gonna play drums? And I go, yeah, he's a great drummer. He goes, oh, I know. But what are you talking about? What are you gonna play? And I said, well, I'm playing bass. Brent, I don't know you play bass. Slash, you're gonna find out at sound check. So that's the fucking end of the story, is if it wasn't, and Slash, very cool of him. He was like, all right, okay, let's do this. But he doesn't know that it's fucking crazy. In the middle of a tour, sold out gig in Moscow. So Brent, the Swiss Army chameleon guy, had to, I quickly was like, and I know the songs in our set, because as a piano player and drummer and bass player, I kind of know the music already, but haven't really grabbed a bass to figure it out. And just between that and sound check, and then 2 hours after, man, I figured it out really fast.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And we did the show with really no rehearsal. And I had to, play the 2 hours and sing and grab Todd's bass, which was like down to my knees, and foreign instrument. And I had no calluses. Oh my God. That night I slept with JD. So JD, I had to direct him too, because everyone in the band was like, well, how are you going to do this, Brent? I go, I'll just direct JD and help him through the gig and remind him, because he's watched the show. He kind of knows. Yeah. It's funny. Is TJ still listening? Be careful. The techs get the call sometimes for getting called on the gig. That's true. Yep. A lot of techs are great players too. You never know. Like
TJ, when we just had him here, it's funny that your story's about a detached retina, because he had a similar story.
I think we talked about it.
Yeah, about a bass player. Same thing, a bass player that had a detached retina flying from Calgary to Halifax. Oh,
and sucks.
Yeah.
I've had 2 detached retinas too.
Really?
It's not like some sort of cool club. Like, why did you and Todd have detached retinas? It's genetics. It has nothing to do with being in the same band and having long black hair and headbanging and flying. Nothing. Nothing.
Yeah, that's nuts. Like I could probably have covered any gig that my band played playing bass, just because I'm a guitar player. But if I had to fill in on drums or anything else, the show's canceled.
Well, so I mean, it's kind of like it's Slash, and it's like it's pretty high profile. Big huge gig in Moscow. I'd never been there, and I was like, I can't believe this is happening. But I will tell you that in my getting older and wiser, as when you're young and you don't think a lot about things and you just do it.
Yep.
You get on your bike and you're like, I'm going to go jump that ridiculous thing. You're like, you don't think of it as a kid.
No.
You don't think I'm going to break my leg. You might break your leg, but and then the older you get, you're like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I might fail, or I might hurt myself, or, you think it and like, oh, psyching myself out ain't going to happen. And a gig like that is the thing where I didn't have a chance to think about it. And I'm so glad that don't say no in your head, just we got to make this work.
Right.
And I'm glad that Slash was cool enough to say, okay, I trust you.
Yeah.
I don't know you play bass, but we're gonna do this gig. And I did a couple gigs, and JD did awesome, and we got through it, and it was fine. Can I brag about why I've been here the last couple of weeks? Because I'm doing something that I thought I shouldn't do, and I psyched myself out at first, and then I'm like, I'm gonna commit.
Yep.
So I don't know. Ask me what the heck.
Okay. So, I mean, your parents live here and you grew up here. And it's funny because the reason that you're here tonight was that I was talking with Hoogie last week. And I was, a week and a half ago, and I was talking to him about what we were doing for Gear Beer. I'm like, I saw Fitz is in town on social media. I'm like, we should hit him up and see if he wants to come out. And he's like, he's in town for a few weeks. I'm like, what? I'm like, why is he in town for a few weeks? So you can tell everybody what you're in town for.
Well, I always come in to look after my parents. So it's great that I can come up here and be back home.
Yep.
And even do things like this. So you mentioned earlier, what's the hardest thing to do? Public speaking.
Yes.
Public speaking. So the first thing I did when I got here was I had the honor and the scary pleasure of speaking at a memorial for a dear, awesome, legendary hockey player named Bobby Hull.
Yeah.
So that was another thing I was very nervous about. They had a little private ceremony, and I was asked to speak at it. And that is terrifying.
Yep.
And I got to know him really well, and I stepped up to it. Lee was there. I don't like those things, but I embrace the fact that it's wonderful to get the chance to speak very highly about someone you respected and knew and cared for. But the public speaking aspect, not great.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Yep.
So I did that, but the bookend to that is I was actually, thanks to, I can say, Toque, had a definite connection to this, but I was asked, hey, what do you think about doing a little movie part? That means actor, not musician. And I was like, not an actor, nope. But I said yes to something that was very scary and out of my comfort zone. So I've been here working on a little acting thing I got involved in, and it was awesome because it was something that I was not, at first gonna think like I can do this, because that's not what I've, set myself up to this point. But I did it, and it's Paul Spence who did the Fubar movies. He's got something new he's working on, and I was asked to be a part of it, and I had a little bit more than just, it wasn't an extra walk-on. I had to prepare like a gig, and it's so funny, the years and years of playing music and all the gigs you've done and all the practice and everything. When you walk up on stage, when I walk up on stage with Slash, it's like all that behind you is the momentum of like the confidence.
Yep.
Right? The confidence to be in front of people and talk, and you do it enough times, you get better, and you're comfortable. And you're still nervous. That's the thing, is being nervous before a gig is everything. I'm still shitting myself, and it doesn't matter what gig it is. I'm always like, I hope it's great, and So anyway, there was a little filming thing that I got to do in my hometown, which is great.
That's awesome.
Involved with some great people here, and so I've done it. I feel good about it, and that's why I'm glad. I feel relaxed tonight because I'm like, covered that. So
nice. Such a cool thing to be able to be involved in, right? Like
artistic things, and it's always entertainment related for me and music related. That's my world.
Yeah.
I love just the whole entertainment industry, and it's all connected. Music and films and being creative is part of the thing, because I'm a failed hockey player, so I got to make good on everything else.
I don't know what I'll say there. Yeah, we're getting a little long here too, guys. So if you guys have any questions too, like get your questions in now, and we'll I promise that we'll actually start answering some of them. They told me to ask you what did you think the first time you tried a rev? But I think you kind of covered that a little bit earlier when you're talking about seeing us at the NAMM show and then getting some pedals. I don't know if it's from me or from Hoogie, but from one of us.
Oh, Hoogie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should take, I don't have my pedal board here, but I have a couple pedal boards with some rev. What do I have?
My guess is you have this one here.
Yeah.
And maybe this one here.
That's what I have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I need to spend more time doing some guitar stuff too, because even with playing with Toque, I don't get too gear savvy, because we're, the problem is we have to travel light.
I was gonna say, it's
I
all
don't get
backline.
to have all the groovy pedals on tour. Usually it's tuner, and that's kind of it.
Yeah.
Fly dates around the planet.
I mean, bass is not normally heavily, like you don't have heavy effects on bass anyway, but I mean, that's what, I'm sure Corey's using Kemper's. Pretty sure the last time I talked to him, that's what he's using, because for fly stuff, it's light, and you can have all your effects on board, so it's nice and easy, and you can program everything for your show.
It's really about what gig works. I mean, obviously, to have the luxury of a bunch of amps, if you're going on a major tour and you're traveling with all your own gear, that's what we do with Slash. You get the best of the best. Obviously, Slash has all his favorite amps out there, all road cased up, and away you go. And my drums and any other gear it's your best representation. You don't always get that. So I've done 1,000 other gigs where a fly date limits, I'm usually, and Todd and I, it's funny because we always have our guitar on the plane. Gate check maybe, but not usually. And thank God for my mono cases. Those things are bulletproof. Phil X taught me that. I actually watched Phil X. We went to Europe. We played for the who was having those festivals every year? Crap, I'm gonna draw a blank. Anyway, one of the German companies, and they invited us over to play, and I got to play with Phil. And but I saw Phil, he had the dual guitar.
The mono dual bag.
Yeah, and he like checked his guitars. I was like, whoa, dude, you able to check those? Yeah, I got these bulletproof cases. But yeah, I figured out my rig is like guitar on the plane and carry on and just travel around the planet. So my pedal board's usually one row. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't have like this. That'd be nice to take that on the road,
Yeah.
but only if you're in a tour bus.
Yeah, it's not so great to fly with. That's for sure. I don't like. I'm going to Nashville on Sunday, and I'll be there for 4 or 5 days, and then I go from there to Toronto, and I'm doing Cosmo Music Fest.
Yeah.
In Richmond Hill, and like I need guitars while I'm in Nashville and while I'm in Toronto, but I just flying with them. I just hate it. So I have some stuff that we have a storage locker in Nashville that I'm like, well, I have a Les
awesome.
Paul that's there.
Yep.
So that's good enough for while I'm in Nashville. And Sean's based in Nashville, so
Yep.
I just ask him.
I always
"Hey, can
had
we
gear in
borrow
Nashville
stuff?"
for a
Yep.
long time. I kept a storage at SIR.
Yeah.
My good friend Laura, who runs it there, and I almost was trying to have a presence in Nashville where I live in Vegas, been there 20 years, and I when I was playing with after Slash, during Slash, but in 2016 there was the Guns N' Roses reunion that was going on, and I got a call right away from Brad Woodford from Aerosmith and Derek St. Holmes, and those guys are Nashville guys.
Yep.
And I was out there a lot, kind of based out there.
Yep.
And even playing with Gene Simmons in some solo stuff around then, and I just kept all my gear in Nashville.
Yep.
And it was awesome, and I was like, I'm in Nashville more than I'm, because I don't play in Las Vegas.
Right.
I'm a resident there, but it's rare you're going to see Brent at some gig or club. I'm kind of elusive, but Nashville is gear central, man. It's just like
there's everything there, and I mean,
crazy.
We have a locker at Soundcheck, which is
That
like
place is great.
The
yeah.
the sister to SIR essentially, and like there's just so much there. Like there's so much stuff there, and I mean the nice thing about Nashville is if you know anybody, like you can just call somebody and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna be in town, and you have something I can borrow." I gotta go. Like for me, it's I gotta go do this meeting or this demo, and I want I don't want to show up and be like, so what do you have on the wall that doesn't suck? Like, but Cosmo Fest, I was like, man, should I take my stuff? Because we are going to get whatever Cosmo has on the wall, which is, they have very nice guitars. And I hope some of you guys watching are going to be at Cosmo Fest when we're there.
Hey, what's that? Hoogie mentioned, do you have a aluminum neck guitar here or something? What is that?
Yeah.
You got it handy?
Do you know where it is, Luke?
I don't, but I can go find it.
Yeah,
I wanted to check it out.
try.
Grab that, yeah.
Okay.
The Illuminati, right?
There's some pretty
Yeah.
fucking. Hey, where's TJ?
Yeah.
TJ?
That's our
Ibanez Iceman. It's great.
Yeah, our buddy Dorian, it's his buddy. We brought that in for when TJ was coming in, and then, I mean, there's no shortage of
Useless trivia. Whose guitar model was that before it was Paul Stanley's?
Oh, I have no
Come
idea.
on.
I'm not an Ibanez historian.
Steve Miller.
Really?
It was the Steve Miller model. Go look up the ads before Paul Stanley. It was like a root beer color, like a mahogany color.
Yep.
Yeah, the Steve Miller model was before that. And Paul Gilbert has the cool one. That's the reverse version.
Yes.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I've always been like a big Ibanez fan, but I've always had like the RGs, and I really, really like their hollow bodies.
Oh, yeah.
Like their hollow bodies are nicer than the Gibson ones, in my opinion.
I liked, so when I was growing up, probably the most signature one to me, other than an Iceman, was the Phil Collin triple pickup Destroyer.
Yeah.
Badass. In fact, I'm always searching for one on Reverb, so if anyone has one for sale, let me know. I want one.
Nice. Yeah, I mean that's a rabbit hole too, like chasing stuff down on Reverb. I've spent
Reverb's
so
the
much
best.
money
Yeah.
on stuff I don't need.
It's just the sales pitch for Reverb. We don't have to, anyone that's interested in gear, we're all on Reverb searching out for our favorite stuff.
Oh
It's
man,
the eBay for musicians.
Yeah, my new thing is, and the guys have heard me talk about this. I'm trying to hunt down not just birth year, but like if I can find that birthday guitars.
Oh, really?
Like, but my birthday was on I was born on a Saturday, so it's
What year were you
unlikely.
born?
1980. Hoogie and I are like, I'm just a couple months
You guys
older
are
than
children.
Hoog. Yeah, so Hoogie's in the same boat. Like we're both. I want a Les Paul and a Strat.
Don't you both have several kids?
He's got 4 kids too.
I know.
Yep.
How about you, bud?
Yep.
Okay,
White
Paul
Zombie.
Stanley played the reverse in a couple of songs during the first leg. See, Alf's always good for the extra detailed end of the road tour. Oh, look at that! Thank you, Alf.
Ibanez makes
White Zombie, yes, of course.
Nice guitars, but have such thin necks. I'm not a huge fan of the Wizard neck, but I prefer like a lot of Ibanez necks over like the Gibson 50s wide fat. I can play kind of anything, but I like. I actually have 2 Les Pauls that are from like very different years. I don't know
How
if
about
the
the
other
White
one's here.
Falcon? What's that one?
Yeah, it's a Gretsch. That's awesome.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, that guitar's phenomenal.
Yeah, there's some beautiful guitars here.
Yeah, you know what? Once I stopped playing in a band,
Who owns them? You?
me / the shop. Like
Yeah, cool.
the
I only have, like, in my guitar collection, it's like, I kind of feel like Les Paul, Telly. Oh, look at that. I have a Rickenbacker. This is, jeez.
There's a little switch
got
on
a-
the bottom too.
Yeah.
You can turn the
so
light
this
on.
turns the lights on. Lights
Oh my
up blue.
God. This thing's heavy, neck heavy.
Yeah. The neck is really interesting though. I mean, it's obviously perfectly stable because it's not wood. It's actually comfortable. Like it.
Look at this.
Yeah.
This is rad.
It's nice work.
See, I like this. This would be cool.
Yeah, it reminds me of the was it what's the? It's not Albert Lee. What was the
St. Vincent.
St. Vincent? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Body style.
Yeah,
So
it's cool.
yeah, it's cool.
Well, thanks. I'll take it home.
Yeah. Hoog said it was yours.
I mean, it is
Yeah.
Hoogie's, not ours.
Is it really?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Do we need to jump in here? That then that guitar went missing, Alf. See, now TJ and Alf are having a detailed Kiss conversation on
Yes.
the side here. It's great.
Have you got any tours or anything coming up?
You know, I do, and they're kind of related to back here.
Yep.
Ironic. So I'm coming in a couple weeks to play with, and you mentioned him earlier, Kim Mitchell.
Nice.
Got the call.
Nice.
How do you get the call? Well, you know, you hope that somebody's got you on your thoughts. So I'm just very happy. I love Kim Mitchell.
Yep.
Of course, we hail Kim Mitchell in Toque.
Yep.
And we've all grown up on his music. So he asked me if I would be willing to play with him in Regina
Okay.
in a couple weeks. It's coming up.
Nice.
It's a CFL game. Bombers and Riders.
Nice.
So I think we're doing a little halftime, probably a little medley of some killer songs.
Yep.
That will be one of my bucket list moments for sure. Looking forward to that. Ray Coburn from Honeymoon Suite on keyboards. Great.
Very
and
cool.
And then I'm coming up to, how ironic, we mentioned Minnedosa earlier. So I'm coming back to the legendary land of Minnedosa for Rockin' the Fields.
Yep.
I'm playing with Sebastian Bach
Okay.
from Skid Row, who's my neighbor in Vegas.
Nice.
We're Kiss Star buddies, and we, you know, as Canadian brethren, it's kind of cool to hang with him. So I'm playing with him
Nice.
up here, and I have some other stuff in between, but those are my things
Yeah.
going on up here. So
Nice.
pretty cool. That's it.
Nice.
Always playing with different artists, and love that. Love
Yeah.
playing with different people and getting a chance to, you know, always keeps my set list in my head continually fresh.
Yeah.
Got a whole bunch of new Kim Mitchell songs that I already know them.
Yep.
But I got to hone them and, you know, refine
Yeah.
to be able to back the man himself.
He's so
awesome.
good. Like,
I know. Great guitar player. Come on. I mean,
yes.
not underrated. I don't think he's underrated. It's just we don't say enough things, but we all know he's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
one
and-
of Canada's greatest musicians and
And
guitar
there's
players.
so
especially.
many Americans that don't know Kim Mitchell or Max Webster that
Yeah.
like
Some know Max Webster more than anything.
Yeah.
A lot of my musician friends, you know, it's usually a little older.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying they're 30, but, you know, someone in their 50s or something, oh, fucking Max Webster, love. And yes, great.
Yeah, I remember like one of my buddies. It's a big YouTuber now. He's from Ohio, and I remember talking to him, and he knew like almost every like legendary Canadian band, right? And like I showed him Toque like right away, and he's just like, this is the best. Like
The Canadian
yeah.
songbook.
Yeah. He's like, it's so good. And he's like, hey, man, he's like, do you know Kim Mitchell? And I was like, come on. I'm like,
It's a fair,
like-
reluctant question for
Yeah. I'm like,
The
I
people
get
down south, yeah.
I'm like, I get it. I'm like, but you know that I'm from Canada and I play guitar. Like, it's impossible for you. Well, and I'm like, I grew up in the '80s. I'm like, it's impossible for you to not know
Oh, I know.
Kim Mitchell. And yeah, so all the Americans watching, if you guys
Just
aren't
go-
into, Street Heart, yeah, dude, another great.
Oh, come on. The most underrated, prairie band of all time.
Yep.
With just amazing songs. And Kenny Shields' voice was just fantastic.
Yep.
And always great guitar players. You got to remember, Paul Dean on the first album,
Yep.
who talk about writing the most memorable guitar riffs, simple,
Yep.
a la Randy Bachman as well. Just those memorable parts, but killer and killer tone.
Yep.
And actually, the next records after Paul Dean with John Hanna just is great, and he played on like well, I think he's the Under My Thumb version. You know, John Hanna was on that, and then Jeff Neal came in after that, and that's probably my favorite, stuff. For some reason, I really was into the self-titled Street Heart record that Jeff, with is Without Your Love, Snow White, and One More Time. I mean, Miss Plaza Suite, so good. Again, playing simple, great songs with good guitar parts, memorable, and very underrated band that everybody needs to check out, Street Heart.
Yep. That's probably actually the first time.
Still very active, too, here. Unfortunately, Kenny Shields has passed on, the singer,
Yep.
who I actually had the pleasure of working with before I moved to L.A. I was playing with Kenny and the guys at the time, and Kenny is my absolute, mentor here.
Yep.
As far as an influence and, giving me so much just by watching and learning as a professional, what he did and how he treated people and how he acted, and just such a great person to learn from.
Yep.
And then, he kind of set me on my way. He was really influential in getting me, you should go to LA.
Yep.
I feel like that's an important thing for you. And he used to call me Charlie, nicknamed after Charlie Watts from the Rolling Stones.
Yep.
Another great musician. Rest in peace.
Yep.
So anyway,
that's the first time I ever saw Bruce Jacobs play. Was playing with Street Heart.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, it
'cause
was the first time I saw it.
Yeah,
Yep.
Bruce, awesome. Well, so many great bass players in Street Heart. I mean,
Yes.
obviously Spider.
Yep.
Playing and back in the band.
Yep.
Probably the greatest bass player that nobody. I mean, Spider has been touring forever in Loverboy now as well in America and everything, but still never, on that short list of if Geddy Lee comes up as a great Canadian bass player, I wouldn't even argue Spider.
Yep.
Spider, Ken Seneve from Winnipeg. He's from Regina, but he's Winnipegger now.
Yep.
Spider's one of my favorite bass players of
So good.
all time.
Brent, did you go to MI for drums or guitar or PIT/GIT?
I did not.
Yeah.
But Shane did from Toque, Shane Gallus.
Yep.
So he was another guy that I was aware of, and in that positive jealousy of wow, Shane went to LA because he was there before I was.
Yep.
And Shane is now in Toque with me, but he used to be in a band called Hell's Bells that toured the same circuit as Todd Kearns and I.
Yep.
Back in the late 80s. And Corey Churko was on the same path, but he was just his family band that was touring around that would have played different clubs than.
Right.
And I wouldn't have crossed paths with him per se. But Shane would play the week before us, at wherever, the Live Wire in Calgary. And Todd would be there the week, after. And we all shared the same, travel circuit. And so Shane did go to PIT, and it was a big deal to me. I was like, that guy from Hell's Bells, that great drummer, went to PIT. And when I first moved to LA, I used to go to the Baked Potato, which is still alive and well.
Yep.
One of the few great places to go see just amazing artists in a small, intimate setting about the size of this room here.
Yep.
And I used to go see Shane, and I never knew he was this hot dog drummer because you see him in a club playing modern, whatever the songs we were playing at the time, just bar music, for the masses. And then Shane came out with all these chops, and he was just super dynamic and groovy. And I was like, fuck, that's a guy from, I thought he was the best drummer I'd seen in LA. And I was like, and he's from the prairie, he's from Innisfail, Alberta. I was so happy. And now I'm playing in a band with him. So
that's awesome.
pretty awesome, yeah.
Somebody saying didn't.
We've been doing this almost 2 hours.
I know. I know we're
I've
getting.
seen Lee's yawned a few times. That
Yeah.
might be the. Oh,
he's watching hockey.
Never mind. He's watching the hockey game. Hey, how about those Golden Knights? See my hat? There's a lot of Winnipeggers on the Golden Knights, ladies and gentlemen, and they are 3-0 on the latest series.
Nice. That was a tough one for me because like
here we go.
no, because I don't hate Edmonton, although
Oh.
I can't stand Evander Kane after he was in
Well,
Winnipeg.
yeah.
So,
I know.
I mean, yeah. So, but I was that was a tough one because
I love my Jets.
What's
But
that?
I love cheering for the Knights, especially when I'm just going to say it. Just I love the Prairie influence within the team.
Right.
On the ice, there's 4 players on the ice right now, 5 in the system, and all the management that's from Brandon and all those outlying areas here, and some of the broadcasters on their TV broadcasts, they're all from here.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I was coming back from NAM when Winnipeg was playing the Knights, and I was in Vegas.
I know, we were talking.
I know. And
I sent Derek. He was like, "I got to stop and have In-N-Out." I go, "Yeah, you have your In-N-Out burger." And
Yes.
anyone that hasn't been in the southern states, there, like, you want to have your In-N-Out burger. It's delicious.
Yes.
It's awesome. Can't get it in all the places. But
yeah.
what did I tell you, Lee?
Freddy's. And like
Freddy's.
you were not wrong. I waited till I was in Denver to try it. And Dorian and I stopped. We were going to the Blast Room Studios in Denver the next day, and when we pulled up to our hotel, there was a Freddy's right beside it. And we hadn't
It's a
eaten it.
chain.
And I was like,
It's a burger chain.
yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, I got to hand it to you. You were not wrong. The burger was better than In-N-Out's burger, and I'm actually a huge In-N-Out fan.
I'm waiting.
Like,
I'm waiting.
Yeah, yeah. Like people who argue about like Whataburger and stuff like that versus In-N-Out, I still think In-N-Out beats it. But yeah, Freddy's
You can
was
argue
pretty-
guitars, what guitars, amps are better, but really it just comes down to what's a better burger.
Yeah, 100%. All right, we're getting super long, so
Did we get to say hi to some people? Did we talk about?
Yeah.
I forgot about the band Age of Electric. That someone's. Oh yeah. Brent
Oh, dude,
Todd,
Age of Electric was awesome.
Peppermill. Yes, Hoogie. Peppermill. I have so many stories about Hoogie. We should end on a Salisbury House. Look at Hoogie. He's just like.
Oh,
okay.
Salisbury House, I can't do it.
Hoogie, do you want me to talk about salsa?
Yeah,
And
Sal's is
and a late
trash,
night bus
man.
ride? No, he doesn't. Okay. All right. Maybe we're gonna say good night.
Yeah.
And this was really a pleasure to be in the house of the wonderful company of Rev and Derek, and everybody here is A-list. Oh my God, these guys, Luke, Alex, awesome. I mean, check this, what we're doing here, and we didn't even have to play through these amps, but we are going to once we sign off here. But,
Yeah. So, yeah, everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to be at Cosmo Fest with Sean and Hoogie. I think Glenn Fricker's going to come in on June 3rd. I'm supposed to mention there's for all of our American friends, Memorial Weekend sale starts tonight or tomorrow. 15% off pedals, $100 off D20s and G20s. I think that's all the like house cleaning stuff that I have to say. But yeah, so if you guys are looking for pedals or anything, you can get them cheaper right now. So yeah, hit up any of our dealers or our site, whatever you guys want to do. And yeah, man, thanks again so much for coming and hanging. This is awesome. Thank you
Derek,
guys for
having
hanging
me.
with us. And yeah, that's it. We're gonna go probably eat some more brisket.
I have to get on a plane in the morning, so I got to go to bed because I'm going back to Vegas at 6 a.m. That's gonna suck.
Yeah, that's not.
Where?
I mean, going back to Vegas isn't terrible, but 6 a.m. flights are no fun. I have a 6:30 a.m. flight to Nashville.
Tomorrow?
No, not tomorrow. Sunday.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah. All right, guys. Thanks, and
Cheers, everybody.
Sam and Luke will be here next week. Don't know what they're talking about. Don't know what they're doing, but something fun and stupid. So, see you guys then. All right.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.